So on 24th of January, the much-awaited Kabir Khan directed 5-episode web series titled The Forgotten Army Azaadi ke Liye released. The web series is an extension to Kabir Khan's first directorial project in 1999, which was titled The Forgotten Army and showcased interviews of veterans from the Indian National Army visiting Singapore again and talking about the fond and rather sad memories of various events that took place before and after the formation of the Azad Hind Fauj. The original work is something that I will come to later. In order to mirror his original work, Kabir Khan switches between two timelines. One, in 1995, as veteran Sodhi visits his family in Singapore, retraces several identifiable locations through the help of his nephew, a budding journalist, from his time in the Indian National Army. The motivated and influenced nephew wants to go to Myanmar to capture the protests for democracy that are taking place in the country, and Sodhi joins him as well, finding even Myanmar oddly familiar, getting flashbacks of the way the Indian National Army marched towards India from Singapore. Through this journey, the web series switched the timeline to 1942 and progresses in a linear format to portray the way things progress from the Japanese invasion of Singapore, the formation of the Indian National Army, the creation of the Women's Only Regiment, the influence of Subhash Chandra Bose, and the sheer bravery, resilience, and determination showcased by more than 40,000 men and women who wanted India's independence from the British rule. Here's me telling you the good and bad aspects of the web series so that you guys can ultimately decide whether to watch it on Amazon Prime or not. The good. Battle sequences. The most impressive quality of this web series are the battle sequences. Even though these sequences will be spread out in the web series, after noticing the opening sequence which features the surprise Japanese attack on Singapore, you will crave for more power-packed sequences like that throughout the web series. The sad reality of the web series is that you get to witness only glimpses of these iconic scenes designed by stunt coordinator Kaushal. The realism that is lost in the interaction among several characters is rejuvenated through these beautifully choreographed sequences. It, in its opening battle sequence, very effectively showcases how soldiers' actions, despite their sheer numbers, depends on the order from the top of a hierarchical system. It clearly and honestly portrays the pure-hearted nature of soldiers and how in the grand scheme of things, they just become pawns to the political and ideological battle among countries. A very emotional Sodhi asks his comrade Arshad, "Hum andhe the kya? Ki sirf bevkoof." Beyond the mental state of soldiers and the impeccably designed war sequences in its initial stage, it is only in the 4th episode where we see the perils of war that are beyond human control. This is in reference to environmental forces and how the battle by the Azad Hind Fauj as they proceeded towards India was met with great struggle and sheer human will. Some performances and relevance. I cannot be extremely critical of the performances in this web series as it mostly features new talent, but you will definitely notice that there are amateur faults in several performances in the web series. Before I get nitpicky about it, I have to tell you guys this. I used to work as a background dancer in a live musical called Jhumru in Kingdom of Dreams in Gurgaon, and the main character used to be played by Gaurav Gera. When Gaurav didn't do the show, an actor by the name of Rohit Chaudhary used to play the main role. I remember dancing with him and performing for hundreds of shows, and now seeing him in this web series is such a proud moment. Rohit as Arshad is one of the best performers in the series. He is effortlessly funny, he has a genuine demeanor with his body language and eyes, and honestly puts forth a very earnest performance. Sunny Kaushal, an actor that I loved in a movie like Gold, is slightly inconsistent with his performance. In moments he is extremely convincing as the pragmatic yet blindly patriotic Sodhi, but in other scenes where he has to rile up the soldiers to band together, it momentarily doesn't hit home. You often find yourself comparing that moment with a similar sequence from Uri, and how effectively Vicky motivated the soldiers with his commanding voice. It doesn't have to do with his expressions or body language at all, but is definitely more about the tone and the modulation in his voice. MK Raina as the aged Sodhi shines in moments, especially in sequences as he stumbles upon locations that bring back memories of the war. Sharvari Wagh as Maya does an extremely praiseworthy job for her first role as a performer. You will definitely fall in love with her smile, exuberance, and drive on not wanting to be a mere spectator. She has all the qualities of doing further work ahead, and it seems inevitable as she has signed for Bunty or Babri too. Beyond the performances and hugely problematic choice of screenplay and structure, it's important to acknowledge that this web series is relevant to be told. Even if it didn't provide what ironically Kabir provided in his 1999 documentary so beautifully, this is a story that needs to be told to the masses. We often restrict our concept of Indian history to the fight against the British Raj, but forget about the sheer numbers of Indian troops in World War II that aided the British imperialists because they wanted to suppress such information. The creation of the Azad Hind Fauj and its endeavors might be a small skirmish for the English, but it is a story of absolute belief that needs to be showcased. I would recommend something else other than this web series though. The hilarious part is that too is directed by Kabir Khan. Let's get to that now. The underwhelming aspects, screenplay and structure. The issue with the web series is its screenplay, basically the technique of telling us the story about the formation of the INA, their trials, tribulations and conquests. The sad reality is that the INA veteran visiting his family in Singapore in 1995 and travelling to Myanmar as there is social unrest and connecting their journey to the events of 1945 did not translate well into a coherent telling piece. The way the events take place in Myanmar and go out of hand are unintentional comical. The nephew's rather callous and naive attitude towards the climate of the country comes across as bizarre. How this journey conveniently brings back fresh memories from a storytelling standpoint comes across as extremely far-fetched and badly designed. The problem is not only the connection of the two timelines but the primary focus of the web series. Where I clicked on the web series to expect the dilemma of soldiers in constant conflict of the Japanese and British influence, the influence of Subhash Chandra Bose and his vision to create an army through Indian prisoners of war across the world, the sexism faced by women, and the will and ability they showcased as the Rani Jhansi regiment was created, what I actually got was every feature that I just mentioned presented literally on the surface, not fleshing them out in any shape or form, and the entirety of the brave actions of the INA told through an unnecessary love story and comedic dialogues that took away from the gravity of the premise and reminded me of old Bollywood sensibilities, which brings me to this point. A Bollywood Story. If you honestly look at the Forgotten Army web series, it could have easily been a Bollywood movie. See, you have to realize that since Kabir Khan released his documentary and has been directing Yash Raj movies, he has been pitching this idea as a Bollywood movie since the early 2000s. As he was denied due to the grand scale at which the story was pitched, it was constantly deferred till further notice. I genuinely feel this was created with the same sensibilities of how historics were told in Bollywood movies. The entire web series has several subplots of love stories blossoming not only between the two main characters, but even supporting actors that have minimal dialogues throughout the series. It reminded me of the historicals from Bollywood that failed due to their focus on inconsequential romantic storylines, like the angle between Amir Khan and Rani Mukherjee in Mangal Pandey, or what drove every soldier in the Kargil war in LOC, crying wives waiting for them or wiping off the rangoli in their houses. This in many ways made me wonder why Kabir Khan is focusing on the love story so much, on a metaphorical bird that makes a character end up at a Buddha shrine, letters being passed only to be found several decades later, fantasy of lovebirds destined to last together. This entire web series was pitched to tell us about the Forgotten Army, but I have to honestly confess it's more about the love story between Maya and Sodhi during the time of the formation of the INA, while Shah Rukh Khan's narrations provide cliff notes about what happened politically. The same cliff notes that Kabir Khan blamed history for reducing the INA to are not the prime focus of the web series that is titled The Forgotten Army. Comparisons and expectations. I have to conclude by exactly telling you why I am disappointed with the end product of this web series. It's because I've seen Kabir Khan's beautiful documentary titled The Forgotten Army that released in 1999, which is available on YouTube by the way, and I would highly recommend it. It features several veterans of the INA visiting Singapore again and talking about several key moments from 1942 all the way up to the ultimate fall of the brave men and women. Its interviews in the documentary are basically translated into the web series, but there is such genuine emotion and depth in the documentary that you will honestly not see the same sinking feeling through its acting performances compared to the gut-wrenchingly painful interviews. The love story between Sodhi and Maya is the main essence of the web series, and that is what is the most frustrating aspect of the web series. The documentary sheds light on the influences of Subhash Chandra Bose, taking an arduous journey from Germany, something the web series barely brushes upon. Its treatment of basically the figurehead of the movement is so minuscule and inconsequential that you wonder why the love story was so essential for Kabir Khan. Several anecdotes and individuals from the documentary have been merged into the principal characters, but this is not enhanced by focusing on war strategies, geographical hurdles, and the administrative work by Subhash Chandra Bose, including the advance headquarters being set up in Memyo and the agreement with the Burmese army that associated with the British. All I have to say is that beyond the compelling battle sequences and some moments where the actors shine through their performances, I expected a hard-hitting and thought-provoking war film that shed light on the brave acts of the men and women of the Azad Hind Fauj. Much like Kabir Khan's documentary documentary with the same name. I have to sadly say that the web series provided cliff notes for the INA, much like the history books that Kabir Khan accuses of robbing students from such a great story, and sprinkles it with some masala romance to try and please a much evolved Indian audience now that honestly deserved way more. And that was the video, guys. Write down in the comments below what you thought about The Forgotten Army. Please don't forget to follow me on Instagram. The handle's right in front of you. Follow me at JammyPants4. Also, please support us by smashing the like button and subscribing to our channel for weekly content ahead. Thank you for watching.